everybody. This is ImmaLetYouFinish, episode 216 on the Pantheon Podcast Network. You may be wondering where Courtney is. Courtney, for those of us who follow us on social media, Courtney, there has been some very sadness in the family. He will explain it, I'm sure, but he is not with us. We are thinking of us, and we want to dedicate this episode to his family and to the memory of his mom, who I never met, but am proud to say that she and I shared a complete disinterest and dislike in Barbra Streisand. So hence she will forever be in my heart because of that. So I have my old, only not in age, though we have the same birthday, don't we? You and I?
I think it's very close.
What are you? What's your birthday?
I'm the 18th.
That's close enough. But you're still a youngin'.
That's what I said.
Yeah, you're still there. You're in your 50s, right?
Oh, I'm well into them. I am about to leave my mid 50s and get into my late 50s.
Ooh, that's where the games begin.
People keep saying that the games begin at different places. I think
no, the games never begin. How's that?
The game is always on.
Yeah, all I know is that I had, I should introduce you, right? Piotr Orlov, my friend.
Piotr, feel free to call me Piotr Orlov, yes.
Piotr Orlov, as opposed to what, Professor Orlov?
Piotr, that's the official pronunciation of
all right,
name.
say it again. I've been fucking it up for 20 years.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that's okay. The fucking up is okay. Piotr.
Oh, Jesus, I'm not doing that.
Right, exactly.
But seeing as how we are going to be speaking Russian within the next 2 years in this country, I suppose I should get used to it.
I don't know that we're going to be doing any such thing. Slang taught us by our AI overlords, maybe, but yeah. Russian.
Anyway, Peter.
Too complicated for people who are trying to destroy the Department of Education.
True, but Honora is a great movie. Have you seen it?
Honora is a great movie. I will.
Honora is a great movie.
We just watched one of the other nominees yesterday, which was the Bob Dylan thing, which is excellent acting but bang mediocre. And of all the things that I've seen that are nominated for, can I curse on this podcast?
Not only can you curse, you are legally required to curse.
Of all the shit that I've seen,
we would like some cursing, ethnic, racial, and gender slurs, if possible.
I don't know if I'm good at those, but just a general S-bomb or F-bomb is pretty easy.
Oh, please, motherfuckers! You can motherfucker if you wish. Yeah,
the MF bomb too. MF bomb as opposed to MF doom. Of all the nominees that I've seen, I think Honora is by far the best.
Honora's amazing. She's incredible. I just finished binging Better Things, and I was like, where had that show been all my life? And I think that director nails the Russian community in Brooklyn. Like, oh my God.
I mean, that director is very, very good about being, and I should know his name, but
Sean Baker.
Yeah. Because he did the Florida Project.
And Tangerine.
So I think he's good at two things: going into insular communities and kind of getting them, and obviously like the understanding lives of sex workers and on any number of levels. So yeah, I thought Honora was great. And
one more fun fact, and then the scene where they go into Tatiana, those were all patrons.
Yeah, no, I got like the amount of like natural stuff that he got was kind of, I mean, in fact, I've said this to my mother, who she goes to the movies. So, I mean, preamble to everything why Amy and I are talking about it. I'm a Russian immigrant.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
and I've worked in strip clubs. There.
There you go. So together we are experts.
We are experts.
The world of Honora.
Wait a minute. I should amend that. Strip club singular, and I was a bartender, and it was the Baby Doll, which was to strip clubs.
That's not even a strip. I don't even think of it as a strip.
Yeah, it was a go-go bar.
Yeah. No, I have. It's so much not a strip club that if it is qualified as a strip club, it's by far the only strip club I've ever been to a lot. And then it was a lot because I had friends who worked there throughout post college.
And they had free burgers between 12 and 1.
Oh, that I never knew. How many?
Free burger. I worked in the 80s. They had 2-for-1 beers, two Heinekens for $5, which in 1983 was they're giving them away, and free hamburgers, which we used to always joke were the ground up remains of dancers who lipped off.
And we should tell people that it was on the corner of 24th and 6th.
No, that's Billy's.
Oh shit! Wait, where was the baby doll?
White Street, baby, down the street from the Mud Club.
Oh, so that's why. So I'm lying.
Steven
I've been to Philly a
Saban.
lot.
Steven
Wait, what?
Saban used to come. He lived on the top floor. Steve, we used to get artists. John Lurie used to come. I mean, it was very fabulous. Max Bragg. I mean, it was very. That's where that extra 10 years I have on you comes into play. Anyway, you may be wondering why Peter's here, other than the fact that Courtney sadly cannot be. He will be with us hopefully next week. But Peter is an old friend of mine. He is and I'm saying this to be serious. A mutual friend of ours, Sarah Weinstein, said that you're one of the smartest people she knows.
Oh, no.
Now, keep in mind she works in the music industry, so she's not.
So she's not surrounded by brightness.
Yeah, she's not surrounded by brightness. But a great writer, a great editor, someone who has made me sound smart. So I always appreciate that. And an advocate, and we'll talk about this a little, an advocate for independent music. You were one of the few people who could get me interested in things without lyrics.
Oh, yeah.
Because I need songs. I need hooks.
Well, not having lyrics is not the same as not having hooks.
True. And because of you talking about her, and I'm going to completely F up her name, that Pakistani singer who's become quite the jazz.
Aruj Aftab.
Dude.
Aruj is the truth, yeah.
And a good friend of mine records with her now.
Who?
Chocolate Genius.
Oh yeah, Mark. Aruj is somebody who I wrote Aruj's first bio, and have continued to be in touch with, and Aruj is one of the greats that we have.
Yeah, no, she's amazing.
We have a bunch of greats in New York City right now, I think, across the board, but I think Aruj is one of them.
So why don't we talk? Does she live here? She lives here.
Yeah. She's been here. So I'm sure she visits family in Pakistan. So, and I don't want to speak to her, but like she came here to go to Berkeley in the early aughts, in the mid aughts. Berkeley, up in Boston, Berkeley College of Music.
I almost said upstate. Berkeley, upstate.
Yeah. And she's been in New York ever since. Yeah, she's in Bed-Stuy.
Of course she is. All right, so so I'll say three things, get it out of the way, and then we don't have to discuss it. The Kendrick Lamar show was great. There, move on. And if you didn't get the references, so what? I don't get the references to half of what I watched, and it was.
I want to right now say that if you didn't get the references and you still harbor a New York Times subscription, there was a woman who I'm looking it up right now, New York Times, Kendrick Lamar, who did a really, really good breakdown. Her name is Tiana Clark. She teaches creative writing at Smith, and on Friday or Saturday, she published a thing called Kendrick Lamar's halftime show was radically political. If you knew where to look,
yes,
that was probably the best mainstream media breakdown of that I saw.
And for you 90 Day Fiancé fans, Binny was one of the dancers. I'm not expecting you to watch 90 Day Fiancé. I watch it under protest at this point. But he was in it. That's all. That's all I want to say. All right. So Kendrick Lamar, we agree on that. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we'll have that. Yay, Cyndi Lauper. That's all. Cyndi Lauper.
Outkast.
Oh, Outkast and Cyndi Lauper.
I would also cop for Joy Division and New Order, but yeah,
that's true. I have to say, honestly, I think Joe Cocker's early records and the stuff he did with Leon Russell are fantastic. I would like if they could divide up the career and lose it after Live Where We Lift It Up, whatever that song is called.
Jennifer Warnes.
Yeah, that one.
Jennifer Warnes. But also Jennifer Warnes Arthur Russell collaborator, Jennifer Warnes.
Oh,
So
and Leonard Cohen.
and Leonard Cohen. I mean, listen, you know me. I think the whole idea of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is one of the dumbest things in the history of mankind. But we as a mankind are getting, and womankind are getting dumber and dumber and dumber.
This
So
is true. And I think it's public knowledge, and I will die on this hill. I love Oasis. I don't care.
okay.
And I love Oasis for all the reasons I don't understand jazz.
It's,
You got it.
let's move on.
Yeah. Thank you. Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary concert. I watched it yesterday on the interwebs. Way too much David Byrne and Arcade Fire. Way too much Arcade Fire. Not enough Devo. Not enough B-52s. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Did you watch it?
I have not, but somebody sent me a dear friend with whom I exchange interweb clips. Sent me the part of Robin and David Byrne together, and I kind of want I kind of want to see that. So I mean, like, you know, I really enjoyed Quest's
Oh, he did a great job.
Amir's movie.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna watch it sooner or later. I hope that somebody like cuts it up into bite-sized pieces.
Well, I shouldn't say this because it's completely illegal, but I have a magical stick that finds things on the interwebs. But I will say that this is no disrespect to David Byrne, but I am increasingly tired of people acting like he was the only person in that group. And
I don't know about that. He's just okay. Keep going.
Okay. I think Robin is strong enough a performer to do her biggest hit on her own.
I think I don't know. I mean, I don't know how those particular sausages are made.
Yeah. But not enough Devo. Not enough Devo. Not enough B-52s. I love that Fred Armisen played drums for almost half of the groups, which was fun. Bad Bunny was great, of course, because the Arcade Fire thing was almost 15 minutes. He was going out in the audience and doing guitar solos, and I was like, I quit with this.
I'm actually. I mean, do we remember that Win Butler is like a serial?
Oh yeah, he's a serial something. Yeah, he's a serial. Yeah, that came in.
You know, I mean, I've hated them for a long time. If hopefully they close the show so I can.
No, they did not. No, they did not, my friend. No, they had Prime. No, Jack White closed the show.
Another, not a serial anything or other, and I have a bunch of respect for him, but I don't.
Yeah, and Eddie Vedder got like almost 15 minutes. Yeah. But
I also heard somebody mentioned something that like truly sent a shiver down my spine. Post Malone from Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh, can we talk about
that sounds like one of the dumbest things in the history of mankind.
Well, I will say this.
I keep saying this, one of the dumbest things in the history of mankind.
No,
we haven't even gotten to the truly horrific part of the.
Listen, the great thing about right now is that every 15 minutes, not only will people be famous, but something dumber will come along.
Yeah.
I will say this about Post Malone because you and I both have worked and are fans of and respect and listen to quote unquote black music. Post Malone is the poster child for white privilege in the music industry, that he can jump from genre to genre to genre. And his country stuff is fine, his emo stuff I didn't get, but that he can get up there and front easily one of the most iconic acts, and I hate that word, but it's true, in American music. On their performance on SNL was truly a groundbreaking performance, that he can just jump and nobody seems to blink an eye, just kind of blows my mind because I'm like, yeah.
I actually think that his presence is a lot even more sinister than that, because I think he's not just a poster child for white privilege in the music industry. I think he's a poster child for the Trumpization of the industry. I mean, he is essentially today's Kid Rock. You know?
Kid Rock with hits.
Well, I mean, Kid Rock had hits in 1998 and 1990.
Right, but Kid Rock was in Black Friends. Though Kid Rock was big for like a hot minute.
Kid Rock also had black friends all over Detroit. So, like, I'm saying, he is I can't speak lowly enough about Post Malone. But also I try to avoid it at every turn, so I can't even speak.
Sorry.
Like my dragging of him can't even be like insightful dragging, because I refuse to.
Yeah, I don't. He doesn't. All right, and one more thing, and then we will go to the serious stuff. What did they do to the NBA All-Star Game?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. So the NBA All-Star Game, because we're both basketball fans or long-suffering Knicks fans.
That's a lot closer, but
yeah, long-suffering. And you don't even have to say. I ran into Jamani Williams once at the farmers market when he was running for whatever he was running for the last time, and he's a huge Knicks fan. He's a New Yorker, and I said to him, I follow you on Instagram, blah 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 blah. I love you. I'm going to vote for you. And I said, you don't have to, long-suffering Knicks fan is like, it's the same thing. It's like saying Irish St. Patrick's. It's implied that you are a long-suffering Knicks fan. Well, anyway, what they've done now, I mean, the All-Star Game is kind of stupid, but it gives people a chance to kind of really flex and have tons of points and be the star. And it's the East versus the West. Now it's 4 separate teams named after, thank you, that's the facial expression I was looking for. They only play up to 40 points. Thank you. Again, your head is exploding, which is a halftime if you have a good basketball team. And the teams are made, as someone said, each team was named after a member of the TNT halftime show, which I'm not mad at because I love that. And each team, so you could, in theory, have 5 guys from the Celtics on one team. It seemed completely random. It was, so basically they would play. It was a shootout.
But why? Was there something wrong with the NBA All-Star Game?
No, they said it was like viewership, but they did this. So basically, you'd play your first game, and then you were eliminated, and then that's it. So hello, Jalen Brunson, your very first All-Star game, you're gone. You score 8 points. So that thrill. I think Draymond Green was doing commentary or somebody and said, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is below 0. This is the stupidest idea the NBA is.
No. It's true. I mean, let me be frank. Like Amy said that I am a basketball fan. I truly am. I grew up. My father was a sports writer in the Soviet Union. Yeah, my father was a sports writer in the Soviet Union whose focus was basketball in the Soviet Union at a time when the United States was losing their first Olympic golds to the USSR. So basketball was on the come up. Basketball was the focus of sports in my household. The very first thing I ever remember, first piece of culture that I remember seeing in the United States of America happened in early April of 1977. I watched a Sixers-Celtics game on a Sunday afternoon on CBS, and I thought I knew basketball, and then I saw Dr. J for the first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And as a 7.5-year-old kid, watching this man with this enormous afro fly through the air and dunk the ball, I mean, it's like I went from doing algebra to seeing quantum physics in action kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a mediocre metaphor, but
no,
it truly boggled my mind that like this was the same sport. And so Dr. J became the icon. So like, strangely for a long-suffering Knicks fan, I was, as long as he was on the Sixers, I was actually rooting for.
They were always my backup team.
Yeah, and so
a
lot of New Yorkers gave me a lot of stick for that for my first many years. But I was like, before anything else.
No, you can't. And I'm old enough to remember when the Knicks actually won 2 championships. But yeah, so they do this stupid thing where it's like 40. The only redeeming factor,
Oh, the only reason why I brought that up is that I don't actually have a skin in the game of things like the All-Star game anymore.
oh, me neither.
I abandoned the NBA. As Amy knows, I say this over and over and over. I have even abandoned the Knicks until the last couple of years, just because
Until James Dolan, something happens to him.
until something happens to James Dolan, I refuse
And we're
to.
not wishing any death, but a Donald Sterling situation would not be bad at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Though God knows if he were to be arrested, he would be pardoned because he's a big Trump supporter.
Exactly. I don't really follow, since the Knicks are almost never there at the end. I barely follow until the very end, and
I am holding out. Okay. I am holding out for three things in my life. Well, the first thing I got last year was my half price Metro card. Beautiful. Which is now a half price Omni card, which I don't even know what that means. What else am I holding out for? I'm going to say I wasn't holding out to be a grandma, but I am a grandma, so that's good. And the Knicks winning a championship, so I will die alone with my cats. But the only highlight of the game yesterday was that they had Raphael Sadiq doing the entertainment, and he basically is Raphael Sadiq, who to me does no wrong. And he basically did all hits by people from the Bay Area, and En Vogue reformed. The original En Vogue.
wait, but what? And he did this at the halftime show where?
No, at the NBA All-Star game. No,
Oh,
before that.
he will be doing it.
No, he
Okay.
did it. It
Oh.
happened.
The NBA All-Star game happened?
Ay, Dios mío, you are checked out yesterday. Yes.
Wait, they had the NBA All-Star game on the same day as Saturday Night Live's 50th
Yes,
anniversary?
and
Oh, that's very,
that's brilliant programming.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's how much I had no
Right.
idea.
And the season premiere of the new 90 Day Fiancé. Do you imagine what was going on in my household? I was jumping. My hand was hurting by the end of the game. It was very painful for me.
And it was on directly up against. I mean, don't they?
Yes, directly up against.
They try to stagger these things.
No, that's why the Oscars, you never have like a first run of any show against the Oscars or the
That's what I'm
Grammys.
saying. They try to stagger these things, and this is the first time in a while that I heard like, wait, why would you put these two things up against one another? So
Maybe, judging by some of the jokes I saw from the SNL thing, a very funny, Black Jeopardy, maybe they thought that the core audience for the NBA has no idea what Saturday Night Live is.
I think it's Saturday Night Live. It's been on for 50 years. Like
I know.
They might not still be watching it.
True.
But I don't really know who.
It was very stupid programming. I was actually in the middle of it going, wait a minute. There's the most hyped TV show of the year coming up. They've been doing tons and tons and tons of interviews and press and live.
Kenan Thompson is on frickin' the MTA talking about it.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, like I don't know if you've taken the subway recently, Amy.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I have.
But at my station, he is doing the announcements about like, hey, don't surf on the subway.
Oh, is that him?
Yeah, and watch Saturday Night Live's 50th, and you're like, wow,
Wow.
the reach of promo of this show was
Bless their hearts.
it's truly one of the bigger things I've seen. Yeah.
All right, so here's a fabulous turn we can make. We were I was talking to a good friend of mine who lives overseas, and she said she loves the show, but sometimes we're so New York centric that people overseas don't understand what we're talking about. So Eric Adams.
Yes, Eric Adams. Oh my God. I don't know where to start. I can actually have I can actually say something positive about Eric Adams.
Oh, please do.
Do we want to? The question is, do we want to?
I will say this though, we don't have to explain who he is anymore because he is now international news.
He is one of the most corrupt. I mean, like, listen, in my lifetime in New York, which now stretches 48 years, the really corrupt ones were up in Albany.
Yes.
No, I mean, we've had some utter pieces of shit.
Right.
Rudy, Mike, even, blah, 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 blah. but their corruption was like backdoor corruption,
Right.
like like I'm going to remake the city in my evil image type of corruption.
What's that say?
Uh,
Sheldon Silver.
what? Yeah, Sheldon Silver. Sheldon Silver. Okay, yeah,
I'm doing deep cut corruption.
But Sheldon Silver also was upstate.
That no, he was right
No, I
from
mean
the beginning.
he exactly. So he repped here, but but like his corruption was in Albany. Eric Adams, like it's all so out of like the thing that freaked me out last week was, he's down in Mar-a-Lago, he's basically bending over and showing as much leg and probably more than that as possible. And then he goes on the record to say, "See, I'm innocent." It's like, I mean, truly, the corruption is to me of this moment is that like do you think that nobody is paying attention? I mean, I know that 49.47% of the electorate is not paying attention. That's fine. This is why you get to do what you do. But the idea that the rest of us are not paying attention is, I mean, just, I have nothing to say but
No,
go fuck yourself.
it's just. I will say this. Uh, we in Brooklyn have been aware of his fucking trifling ass for a very long time.
20 plus years. Not
Yeah.
20. I mean, he came right after Marty, right? He was
No,
the
he was a state senator before then. And he was up on corruption charges.
Oh, okay. So
He's not new to the game. He's not new to the game.
yeah, no, totally. But I fully just learned of him when he replaced Marty as borough president.
And let me tell you something. As you and I know, your daughter could be borough president. It requires absolutely no skills.
Well, wait a second. What are you saying about my daughter?
I'm saying that she has the intellectual at a junior high level. She could run the city from Brooklyn because it's what I'm saying is it's a child could do it. That's how my complete and utter disgust with Eric Adams, which was already building for other reasons, came when they interviewed him during the election, the mayoral election, and they asked him the softball questions of softball questions. What was your favorite concert, your most memorable concert, favorite concert you ever went to? And he cited the Curtis Mayfield show at Wingate Park, which, okay, so Curtis Mayfield was paralyzed from the neck down at this show because of an accident, a tragic accident.
Yeah.
Right, where he had been warned, don't go on the show. And he goes, no, the show must go on. Okay, so Ghoulie, that's like saying your favorite Stones concert was Altamont, all right? Because like people died. And B, he never performed. That was the whole thing. He walked out on stage, the lighting tower hit him, and the poor man went down. So Eric Adams' most memorable concert that he saw was a show that never happened.
Well, I mean, I understand how that was a memorable event, but it was not a memorable concert then, right?
Right. But, never let facts enter into a good story. All right. So you and I both teach in institutes of higher education.
Mm-hmm.
You are a professor at the Clive Davis Institute.
Adjunct.
What?
Adjunct professor.
They call us professor, baby, when we walk in.
I try to tell them not to, but yes.
No, I try to tell them to do. No, are you kidding me? I want to be. I like when students call me Amy. I'm like, no, that's not happening. No, I went to grad school. I've earned this.
I have not. I'm good.
I earned this bullshit title. We are both adjuncts. And, you get any teachers together and they will complain about X, Y, and Z, and it's not worth going over because some of it ain't the kid's fault. But we have been talking about how all these DEI, a phrase that nobody even knew what it meant. It was like critical race theory. I really nobody talked about it, how this is going to impact our students, because we do teach in New York City, and you teach now what is you teach a music criticism class? What is it?
So I teach a class. I co-teach a class with Dan Charnas. He teaches some of the students. I teach some of the other students.
Our former guest of ImmaLetYouFinish.
And excellent writer.
Excellent writer.
Excellent editor, excellent academic. Dan and I teach at NYU. We teach at a corner of NYU called the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music. And we teach a class called Writing and Reporting Music. So it's basically a class in which sophomores who are studying to be either musicians or to work in the music industry, it's part like a part of music business program. Most of them are not going to want to write for whether it's Double XL or Rolling Stone or Pitchfork or Hearing Things or whoever. But we teach them how to, if they wanted to start writing, they could go about doing so. Everything from like writing reviews to interviewing people to pitching to perspective and tone. But we mostly teach them this kind of stuff from the perspective of not just the writer, but maybe sometimes being the subject. Because if you understand the ecosystem of, editorial, and this is not just music editorial, but cultural editorial, you, I think, are better versed to understand how sometimes these media conversations happen, who to trust in those conversations and who to not trust just by reading their prose. And so, diversity, equality, equity,
Right.
and inclusion come in simply because of the kind of people Dan and I are.
Yeah.
Like one of the main figures in the course whose writing we teach and we invoke all the time is Greg Tate.
I was going to say Tate. Yeah.
So Tate is important. Tate is really fresh on my mind right now, simply because I just taught it. The piece that we teach is this semester anyway. It's called Diatribe. It was his review of Beats, Rhymes, and Life. The fourth Tribe record, which
The one
he
that
did not,
everybody kind of had a problem with,
including him,
including me.
So we did a close reading of it, and part of the thing to understand of doing close readings of Tate is just how much information you get out of Tate, and the reason to do it is to understand how this man's incredible brain worked. One reason for students to do it. Most of them, they maybe some of them know who Q-Tip is. There's any number of things that you have to fill in the blanks. But the reason why it matters in here is like how a lot of them reacted to this, first time I read it, relatively impenetrable piece. But they read it and they go, I don't understand what's going on, but I hear the sympathy coming out of it.
Okay.
I'm
wondering if was it for The Voice?
Hey, it was, and it was written. It's basically about, holy shit, native tongues and progressive hip hop is falling off because the West Coast and the gangsters are eating your lunch, Q-Tip. There's nothing like you made a bunch of boring songs. It's also written and published on September 3rd, 1996. So Tupac gets shot like 3 weeks later, and he's like, and the end product is like, the song's got to get better because otherwise your lunch is going to continue to get eaten, because the hottest hip hop is being made by like Wu and Bad Boy and Tupac and Snoop, like basically East Coast, West Coast. And then of course, like, Tupac gets killed and then Biggie gets killed, and I feel like that's the last moment that Tate gets to say, we got to change. Speaking of Curtis Mayfield.
Very good. And you, unlike probably Eric Adams, saw Curtis Mayfield perform.
Anyway, so this idea of like teaching a diversity of voices, understanding that equity within the context of American culture is, I'm a kid who listened to black music in the Soviet Union, and for whom black voices literally meant freedom as a little communist kid, and so this idea that I don't even buy into this idea that it's critical race theory. Yes, it's an acronym that got associated with critical race theory, but to me, it is the reason why I came to the United States of America, is to be part of the community that I have tried to build with pretty much every single thing that I've done, or at least since I got into doing things consciously rather than being a cog in a capitalist machine. So to me, teaching aspects of quote unquote DEI within the educational system, it's like that's what I'm going to.
Well, it's so funny too, because that DEI has been automatically associated with women and people of color and queer people. Inclusion can mean, for a New Yorker, inclusion would be a voice from Appalachia.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's also that, but to me, it actually just means a mixtape. To
Yeah,
me, it just means
beautiful analogy.
it
Yeah.
just means a blend of voices, and when it's not a blend of voices,
It's no
it's
pun
white
intended, white
males.
noise.
Like that's like they're the only people who want to hear themselves more of themselves are a certain cadre of white males, and I'm kind of like, oh, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like that. We're right back at the Post Malone conversation.
Yeah, and it's also just imagine what what music in general would be without the input of other, the idea that we don't have DEI at a time to bring it to pop culture, where probably the biggest star in the world is Bad Bunny.
Yeah, or a woman,
Well, but I'm just saying,
that's the thing. But I mean, that's the beauty. There's any number of things that I can rail against poptimism about in regards to like how like whether or not critical faculties of big stars have become like not as great as they used to be. But you cannot you cannot step away from the fact that like the tops of the pop charts are like beginning to reflect exactly what the hell America looks like and the
right.
world looks like. And for any step away from that is.
Which is why it's so, I mean, it kind of, yeah. And I also, I am teaching, I'm doing thesis advisement in one of the musical, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know whether I think you're protected because you work at a school that has always had pretty progressive politics. And I think I'm protected, certainly.
And it's private.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, but because I work at one of the schools I work at is a CUNY, and we're definitely going to be protected there in some sense because that's our student population is DEI. These are kids of immigrants. These are kids. So we are encouraged. In fact, every year there's another diverse gender. Throw it in, which it just makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
It just makes.
I mean, the world, a monochromatic world, a world without diversity, equity, and inclusion, is not an interesting world.
Right.
Like just fucking like. Let's go back to another thing back to the Oscars conversation. I watched Conclave last weekend. Have you seen Conclave?
I've been trying to find it on the interwebs.
It's there. Don't bother.
Okay, good.
Don't bother. It is. I mean, it's mediocrity. Stanley Tucci's pretty good.
And Isabella Rossellini, how's she?
Isabella Rossellini has like 4 lines, and she got nominated for an Oscar. It is a travesty. It is a travesty. I love Isabella Rossellini, but truly, it is like Conclave is an idea of a smart movie written in the post DEI age.
Okay.
It's like you're like it's so awful. It is so awful. Actually, it's not even awful. It's just bang mediocre.
Oh.
Like it makes a complete unknown seem like the story of the a Pulitzer Prize winning.
I'm waiting for it's coming to Hulu. So I'll watch it there. Yeah. And I just saw getting back to the movies and then switching gears again, and then I will let you have your day. A Real Pain, a Real Mess of what is the
Jesse Eisenberg?
No, the Kieran Culkin. Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, how was that?
Great.
Oh, good.
Seriously great, because it's not trying to be anything that it isn't.
Yeah, great.
It's like it's just really smart and really funny. And Kieran Culkin, when I first saw the casting, Kieran Culkin is the least Jewy person I can think of. But he's a New Yorker, so he pulls it off. It's not a Holocaust movie, but they go back to Poland. I'm not giving anything away. And it's a really brilliant and subtle examination of mental illness too, without that being like, it just sort of suddenly you're like, wow, okay, this is what I've been watching. It's 90 minutes. It comes in, it comes out. There's not a wasted moment in it, I
Oh,
think.
right on. I mean, it's on the list.
It's on the Hulu too. It's on the Hulu.
It's on the list, and I feel like this is the first year. This is like my first quarter. Like the funny thing about this being like I am, I publish a newsletter about
Oh yes,
going.
we're going to go into that despite your.
I publish a newsletter about going out in New York and taking advantage. Whereas I've spent like my mental health the first month and a half of this interminable already year and winter has been watching a lot more watching a lot more movies, actually going to movies.
Oh, okay.
In a couple of cases, soundtrack to a coup d'état. If you have
No,
not,
I want to watch that. I've
oh
heard
my
it's
God!
amazing.
Like if all of our conversations about film do not penetrate the listeners,
No, I've heard
soundtrack
it's
to a coup d'état is
brilliant.
the best movie I've seen in such a long time. It's a documentary about the murder of Patrice Lumumba, but it's like so much more than that.
Right.
Anyway, but I've actually started watching a lot of them. So my wife and I were both like, maybe we can see all of the things that we want to see that are Oscar nominated before the Oscars, which I've never, ever, ever
I
tried to
don't
do.
think I've done. I was going to see The Brutalist, and then I was like, I can't.
Oh, Kate sat through it because my wife is a photographer. She photographs a lot of stuff for architects. She actually has long loved brutalist architecture and knows a shit ton about it.
Right.
And she went. I was like 3.5 hours.
There's
That,
a break. There is a break.
I heard exactly. There's a break. With what's his face, who I can't stand. Um, yeah, no.
He's Sylvia Plath's kid.
I know that, which makes him a nepo baby on top of everything else. No, I can't stand him.
He's
Anyway,
Hungarian.
what?
I'm Hungarian.
Okay, congratulations to both of you.
I'm just. Never mind.
Anyway, Kate went to see that and she came back relatively angry that she.
I don't even. I was telling somebody that the other day I was so depressed between the weather and just life and everything that to pick myself up, I decided to watch the documentary about Puffy.
Jesus Christ!
That was my feel good. I went.
Who made a documentary?
It's on Max. It's very. Who made it? Rolling people from Rolling Stone.
Oh yeah, no, I don't need that.
No, no, but I'm saying that's the level of exhaustion I was at. I was like, I can't take it anymore. I can't watch him. I can't do this. I know. Let me watch somebody who I know for a fact will probably go to jail for the rest of their life and get.
Never. I truly at this moment in time believe that if Puffy gave like $100 million to the rebuilding of Mar-a-Lago or something for the South African fascists to a database for him to break in with like a million more bits of data from the populace, he'd let go too. He'd be let go.
Yeah. Or he would get like
absolutely.
an ankle monitor.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I want you to shamelessly I want you to shamelessly and proudly promote Dada Strain, because I will say, as somebody who never leaves the house, I have a day life. I always tell people I don't have a night life. I have a day life. I do lots of things during the day. I go shopping, I teach, I see friends, and then I just collapse, and am proud of it, actually. And I honestly don't often go to shows unless they're at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, because I still have kind of an in there. So I go see shows there, and they do some good shows there.
There's actually a really good at the cafe. You know who Dave Guy is? You might know who Dave Guy is. Do you remember?
I think so.
Dave Guy. He plays trumpet in the big Roots band, but he was also in Sharon Jones's band. And
Okay.
He put out his first after all these years. He put out his first solo record as a solo guy. What's
Right.
that called? Band leader. And he's doing a show at they rebranded the
They
band.
rebranded it because they shut it down, and that used to be one of the best places to see music in
There
Brooklyn.
was, except that the sound always sucked, which is why I'm kind of like I've like I love that as a space, but the sound. Hopefully they change the sound. He's playing there on the 27th, so
Okay. And
yeah.
it does fit my criteria, which is down the street, free and over by 10:30 because I'm old. All right, so talk about Data Strain because what you're doing, we could have the conversation about the expense and the exhaustion and the post-COVID club scene and music scene and especially independent scene in every city, but especially in the city that we live in. Talk to me about Data Strain, how it came about, and what you are doing with it.
Data Strain is nominally it's a Substack. Subscribe at datastrain.substack.com. But it came about at this moment in time that where I started teaching in spring of 2020 officially.
Yes, I was with you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Amy was a teacher's assistant in my class. She helped me.
I met the kids one day, and the next day the whole school shut down.
Exactly. So it was that moment in time. It was at the end of the Trump won, towards the end of the Trump won, but before the protests. But it was a lot of it was me trying to figure out like what the hell I was doing. I was really enjoying teaching almost from the beginning, trying to figure out how to utilize my skill sets and my experience in doing something that was meaningful, for lack of a better term. And then that summer, the protests started happening. And after lockdown, culture felt like really, really weird. And I did a couple of projects about like, well, what is the next culture going to be? Like, particularly when I say culture, I really mean like live music culture. So as much as I love recordings, I have grown up going to shows, and some of my most meaningful cultural experiences are where I'm sharing, something with a band playing. I'm also with friends. I'm also making friends. That there's that energy exchange between the art that is being created and the art that is being quote unquote consumed. But I do believe in this term called musicking, that without like there being an audience, if the musicians were making music in a whole and nobody was there to listen, it's not the same thing, not
Right.
the same energy being put out into the world as when it's there, it's being reciprocated, and all the people are involved in the moment of music creation. So I started. Fast forward, I was trying to figure out, like, all these things are happening all over New York. Even like before the vaccine came along, there was a bunch of stuff that was happening that was like, 6 feet of separation. People started playing shows on street corners in the parks. And I was like, just telling people, hey, you want to go to a dance party? I mean, a few blocks away from Amy, there was this nightly dance party called St. James Joy that was kind of phenomenal, that like basically gave life to all the dancers in New York City, because this father and son team, during the moment of salute to the workers, salute to
Right,
the
right. Oh,
workers,
is that how
they
it
started.
started? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
they started basically DJing records at 7 o'clock in the
Well, they
evening.
started doing it in South Portland too with Fumi and all those guys.
Exactly. All of that stuff started happening. And it was a reminder just how culturally rich New York was. So
Yeah.
when Vaccine Summer came along, I convinced Lena, who ran an incredible local Brooklyn newspaper called The Brooklyner for 20 years, and it closed that year, to let me start doing a weekly listing of local New York music, to not just to promote local musicians who were trying to gig and trying to do these things in clubs that were not run by multinational corporations, Live Nation, AEG, whatever. I wanted to do this as a service for the people who needed a place to go out, for the local businesses and local artists who needed to start making a living after COVID again, after the lockdown, and to just say, hey, there's shit going on. There's local incredible shit because we are in New York City, the place where some of the greatest artists of all stripes in the world live, and they were performing locally. I mean, like, fucking Ravi Coltrane was playing in a bar in Sunset Park. These incredible DJs were coming out and playing in Prospect Park, and all of this stuff was happening. So I started this newsletter. That newsletter went to my Substack. At the same time, on the Substack, I was writing about things like freedom, things like art and activism. The idea of the project is as a project of rhythm, improvisation, and community, because I feel like through rhythm and through improvisation, community gets built both on stage and in front of the stage, but you can transpose that to other parts of the world that we live in. So I've now been doing it for 4.5, 5 years. I have a few thousand subscribers. I've started putting on shows, the biggest of which was an Arthur Russell tribute at Brick Celebrate Brooklyn last summer. I continue to teach. A lot of the thinking that I develop in teaching bleeds into Dada Strain. A lot of the thinking and reading that I do in Dada Strain bleeds into my teaching. What it has given me an opportunity to do at a relatively late age for culture workers, because at this point in your age and in my age, we're supposed to be retired, or dead, right?
No, I was actually supposed to be dead way before this.
Well, exactly. Well,
Come on.
that is
Give me
your
a little credit for being a trendsetter. Come on.
that is your cross to bear. That is or I should say, your life's cross to bear.
Yes.
But I've been able to develop this thing, and I could not have been able to develop it without the fact that I have a partner who is so supportive of what I do,
And a cool herbalist.
and contributes in her own way. As I said, she's a photographer.
Fantastic photographer.
Yeah, she takes photos at a lot of my events as well. My 13-year-old kid is like, she is in her own way creating ideas about rhythm, improvisation, and community, and hopefully goes to LaGuardia. Knock on wood.
Oh my God!
We're still like a month and a half away. My kid applied to high school.
Wait a minute, is she going into 9th grade?
Yeah. That's what the fall was all about. Anyway, Dada Strain is a flag waving for music and this idea of rhythm, improvisation, and community inside the creation of that moment in clubs, among people, among musicians, between musicians and audiences, of finding a way out of all the things that we've just spent the first 3/4 of or a lot of our time spending the first 3/4 of our conversation talking about. And this is where I am going to give the idiot mayor, the corrupt idiot mayor, his due, is that the City of Yes thing that they passed about rezoning for, most of it is about building more apartment buildings, building more housing, but some of it has been to wipe off the last vestiges of the cabaret laws.
Oh, good. All right.
And
that is good.
the other part of it is that it has opened up the opportunity for anybody to throw music-oriented events with almost none of the paperwork that they needed to have.
Okay.
It's like, if you already have a bar that is okay with you setting up your band or your DJ booth or whatever it is, that establishment can now hold up to 200 people without.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
If as long as the occupancy is all fine.
Right.
It is the city has a lot less recourse to shut down cultural events that are particularly DIY cultural events. So the engine that has been built and the infrastructure that now exists is for people to be throwing more of their own events, which I think is the anathema to everybody listening to the same streaming service and the same 50 songs on the streaming service. So and that was pushed partially because he's I despise him, but he's a mayor who likes to go clubbing.
Well, I was going to say, but there must be an Azerbaijan-Albanian connection to this.
I'm sure that there is a pocket lining aspect to this, and yet he was central in making sure that some of these things are in the city of Yes rezoning. So I have to give credit where credit is due.
All right. Jeez, fucking Christ.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's Dada Strain. So subscribe. I am.
Give us the information. I'll put it up there. Even though you called me a bitch because I didn't subscribe to it.
That was with a.
No, I know. It was like, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a line. That was a line in a sitcom, as opposed to.
Yeah. It was like
the line of sitcom is Amy and Piotr and Kate. And
It was a difference. It was the difference between the way British people use the C word and the way Americans use the C word.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a term of endearment overseas. It can get you cut in a club in the United States. All right. I love you. Stick around because I am going to ask you questions about how I upload this thing, since this is my first time being Charles in Charge. This has been I'm Gonna Let You Finish, episode 216. You know how to find us because you're listening to us, obviously, but we are on the Pantheon Podcast. Please support the other shows on the network. There's all sorts of really cool, interesting sports, culture, music, of course, stuff. Happy President's Day. Who cares? And thank you again. And all our best to Courtney. And we will hopefully see him here next week so that he can argue with me in even a more effective way than you do. But that's okay.
Oh, I'm not effective, but thank you for having me, Amy.
I know. I love you. All right. Bye, guys.
Do you love it loud? Come to Rockin' Pod Weekend in Nashville. Rock convention featuring panels, interviews, podcasts, signing sessions, vinyl, pop culture collectibles, and more. Over 30 celebrity guests, members of LA Guns, Accept, Kicks, and more. Live concerts, Nashville Rockin' Fest Thursday, Rare Hair on Friday, Tuck Smith and the Restless Hearts Saturday, Punchlines and Backlines All-Star Comedy Show on Sunday. Full details at rockinpod.com.